Yowie wowie, y'all. I'm Michelle, as usual, and I'm here to welcome you to the Kingdom of Pinfall. This is Chapter 6, and you're getting deep in here now. You've come very far and not turned back yet. I'm impressed. If you've come upon this episode and you're trying to start here, please do not, because this goes in order, and you have to start with episode 1. I can't make you do that, but I strongly recommend and encourage it for your listening pleasure. Clever listeners have probably realized by now that Otis is a druid. Big E, Tucker, and Nikki are DPS fighters of some sort. Nikki specifically is a barbarian berserker type warrior. Kofi is DPS as well, but he's sort of a hand-to-hand monk fighter. Sonya is a rogue / assassin. Mandy is a fire mage. Xavier is kind of a cleric, I guess. And Alexa is a spellcasting support. Alexa can only do buffs and debuffs, so she can't do any heals. I could probably make character sheets for all these guys if I were motivated. I'm not going to, though. I might. Maybe. But I'm not. I really rolled kind of D&D in with World of Warcraft, and, Robert Roode is totally a battle mage. He's a frost battle mage. Sort of like in the Dragon Age games, which I also really enjoy, and you might see more influence from that crop up later, maybe. No spoilers! If you are extra clever, you will realize that this party is extremely poorly formed. If we have Otis being the tank, then the only healer is Xavier. And then there's all this DPS running around. They are working on forming a proper raiding party for the WrestleMania, I promise. And in regards to Shayna murdering Jordan Devlin in the last chapter, I literally scribbled down names of NXT UK wrestlers, assigned a number, and rolled a d20. It was pure chance that he was the chosen death, and there were no healers in that tavern with resurrection powers. Bummer. There's also another point a few chapters ahead where someone's fate was determined by something beyond myself. I will tell you about it after it happens, because I don't want to spoiler, of course. Obviously. And be sure to check out the link tree in the description. I would really like you to sign up to be a patron on my Patreon, please. It's kind of a work in progress. I don't know how to value my stuff or my time very well. But I want to make it kind of a cool, fun thing where I do cool stuff for people. Also, my Etsy shop, please go there. Buy prints of art. We love art. Support art. That's it. Links in the description. And my trigger warning or rating or whatever, I guess this chapter is, I'm gonna tag it explicit, I guess. It has a lot of violence, moderate violence, and some strong language and implied death. I don't know. Death, quote unquote. I'm doing air quotes around death right now. Spoilers I don't want to give spoilers. Anyway, that's it. For real. Now, let's get going. We need to find Becky. Chapter 6. Where's Becky? Where is Becky? Charlotte can hear the universe chanting. 1,000 voices are saying Becky's name in perfect unison and as loudly as they can, over and over. The cosmic observers of Pinfall are behind Becky and whatever it is she's doing, which is probably just standing around holding her belts, Charlotte suspects. They cheer when she's doing nothing, when she picks things up, when she wears sunglasses, and when she takes off said sunglasses. It makes it easy to find her at least. Just follow that incessant chanting. Charlotte finds that she's actually completely wrong when she finally spots the redhead in the middle of a farm near the border of SmackDown. Both of Becky's belts are on the ground haphazardly, and 2 people are standing over her, kicking her as she tries to ball up and protect herself. She's screaming, "Get off of me, you stupid women! I'ma kick your asses as soon as I get up." Her assailants are the Iconics. There's no referee in sight, making it an unsanctioned fight. They're not after either of her belts, they just want to beat the shit out of her. A sentiment Charlotte understands to a degree. She observes quietly from a distance where no one can see her, perched on the roof of the farmhouse. "I'm gonna kill you both!" Becky yells at them, and they continue their attack. They're being oddly silent. The chanting for Becky is endless, and Charlotte wonders what Becky did to piss the 2 of them off. When Billy bends down to grab Becky by her hair, Peyton stomps into the nearby barn and disappears. A referee materializes, which means someone in the heavens decided to make the match official for whatever reason. Peyton emerges from the barn with a steel chair. The referees have gone insane and every fight is apparently a no DQ street fight, from the looks of things. This is definitely a sign of the impending WrestleMania, which Becky has been conveniently denying for weeks while parading around Raw and SmackDown with her 2 belts, high-fiving children, and drowning everyone in puns and dad jokes while taunting all of the other champions. Charlotte watches a bit longer. Becky claws at Billy, but Billy manages to keep her down and still enough for Peyton to swing the chair into her face. This knocks her onto her back again, and Charlotte finally intervenes, not wanting Becky to lose her belts of power. At least not to the Iconics, and also not really wanting Becky to get herself killed in a handicap match. Charlotte sighs and makes her entrance. Music sounds, and the 2 women look up slowly. Peyton drops the chair, startled, as Charlotte swoops onto the scene, transforming from Raven into herself as she descends. The voices cheer her, which is odd and jarring. She's only being cheered by proxy, and she knows this, but it's fine. With a flick of her wrist, Peyton goes flying back into the side of the barn, where she slides down onto a bale of hay. "What are you 2 doing?" Charlotte asks Billy, hoping for some sort of sensible explanation for the 2 of them attacking the dazed and bleeding Irish woman laying on the ground, now writhing around holding her face. "Are you each going to take one of her belts? Who decides who gets which one?" Billy doesn't answer. Instead, she cocks her head to one side, and Charlotte notices that something is wrong with her. Her skin is an unhealthy pale, and her eyes are rheumy and clouded like they're filled with cataracts. Her lipstick is smeared haphazardly across her cheek, and the most notable oddity is that she isn't shrieking or doing weird poses. She lunges towards Charlotte with some off-kilter jerking motions, but ends up meeting Charlotte's boot with her face. She falls back, and Charlotte looks down at her. She purses her lips and tries to make sense of what's happening, then kicks her in the side of the head as hard as she can, knocking her out. She continues twitching, so she isn't dead. Unless she was already dead. Peyton somehow got back to her feet and is shambling toward Charlotte. She has the same sickly appearance as Billy and the same almost marionette-like movements. Charlotte snatches the chair up and clocks her in the side of the head, then begins looking her over as she wiggles on the ground following the impact. "Oh no," Becky mutters from where she's lying on the ground still. "I've died. I must be dead for your stupid ass to be the one rescuing me." This is my punishment in the afterlife. Constantly being rescued by my arch-nemesis. You're not dead, and I'm not your arch-nemesis, you dipshit, Charlotte tells her before driving the chair into Peyton's head so her wiggling lessens. She then says to Becky, "Now get up, we need to go. There's something weird going on here." Becky groans, then sits up shakily and rubs her neck. She glares at Charlotte and wipes a bit of blood from her nose, flinging it toward her. She eyes her suspiciously, waiting for her to attack her after coming to her aid. Charlotte tosses the chair aside and looks toward the referee instead. "Call the match, it's done." He doesn't move and looks at her expressionlessly. "What's going on?" Becky asks, not really speaking to Charlotte, but as a general expression of confusion at the entire series of events. "I don't know," Charlotte confesses. "I think the Iconics are possessed. But by what? I don't know exactly. I have no idea what's up with this stupid referee. I think he's broken." "That's a first. The Queen admits she doesn't know something. If that's not a sign of a WrestleMania, I don't know what is," Becky says, getting to her feet. "Shut up." Charlotte slaps her and then glowers. "Ow!" She whines and touches her cheek, frowning. "That was uncalled for. I just got hit in the face with a chair." She motions to the referee. "Why is he not ending this? They're both down." Charlotte raises her hand in an attempt to silence her so she can listen. "The bell wasn't for them," she tells her quietly, and her eyes dart around the barnyard. In the next second, she's diving in front of Becky and then yells out, "Ah, shit." Becky's eyes widen as soon as she sees the crossbow bolt sticking out of Charlotte's bicep that probably would have hit her in the chest. She quickly makes the assessment that the shooter is hiding somewhere in the small copse of trees directly across from the barn. It's a good distance away and up a hill, giving her challenger quite an advantageous vantage point. "Grab your stupid belts and let's go," Charlotte growls at her between her teeth and looks angrily at the bolt in her arm, but extends her hand. "I'm not running from a fight. What kind of champion would I be if I just took my belts and bailed?" she protests. "I'm gonna go rip the face off of whoever's trying to shoot me." "Whoever the fuck this is just ruined my robe," Charlotte comments and ignores her. "Now let's go." "I don't need you to protect me, Charlotte," Becky insists and shoulders past her. "I never did." Charlotte tackles Becky to the ground as another bolt goes whizzing by. She groans and winces with the first bolt still sticking out of her arm. "Trust me, this is not something I enjoy much, but someone is trying to kill you and take your belts." "Someone's always trying to kill me and take my belts. It's because I'm..." Charlotte slaps her again. "Do not list your accolades right now." Becky is interrupted only briefly, and she struggles out from under Charlotte and kicks her in the stomach. "Fine, I've beaten everyone and I'll keep beating everyone that comes after me. I don't know what you're doing here or what you want, but..." She's interrupted again, but this time by another bolt that Charlotte manages to catch in her fist just in front of her face. Charlotte snaps it in her hand and throws it at her, then rips the other bolt out of her arm and throws it at her as well, spattering her with more blood. She scowls and gets up, saying, "Aska's after you too, by the way." She raises her arms in surrender and shouts toward the trees. "She's all yours, whoever you are, but I'm going to kill you after because you shot me in the arm." Becky gets to her feet and squints in the direction of her challenger. She asks Charlotte, "Who do you know that uses a crossbow? Ranged weapons are for cowards." Another bolt shoots toward Becky's legs this time, but she sidesteps it. Charlotte looks at her. "Are you talking to me?" "I'm asking you a question since you're an all-knowing demigod," she tells her and starts toward the trees. "Ha ha," she responds sarcastically. "You don't need me and never did. Please, run in a zigzag though, so you don't die before you get to whoever the hell is shooting at you." "Gosh, it's almost like you care about me well-being." She dodges another bolt and begins moving quicker. Charlotte remains back, saying nothing else, and crosses her arms as Becky continues forward, yelling insults. A bolt comes again toward Charlotte and plants itself at her feet. Was it some sort of warning shot, or is this person really bad at using a crossbow and the other shots were lucky? It becomes quickly apparent that it is the former, and Becky takes a bolt to her thigh. "Shoulda serpentined, Bex," Charlotte calls after her. "You never fucking listen to me." "Come out, you stupid cowardly twat." Becky ignores Charlotte and yells at her assailant as she continues advancing while blood drips down her leg. They both hear a laugh and see a figure jump down from a tree limb. Charlotte looks and does a bit of a double take. She asks Becky, who is closer, "Is that Liv Morgan?" "Yeah," she answers this time. "She's dressed like a fucking nun or something." The gears begin turning in Charlotte's head and she mumbles, "Oh no. Becky, you idiot!" Becky rips the bolt out of her leg with a gross tearing noise and a spurt of blood. She clenches it in her fist for a moment before throwing it aside. "Leave me alone, Charlotte!" Charlotte charges forward as Liv loads another bolt into her weapon, and she grabs onto Becky's shoulders, yanking her onto her back into the dirt, ending her approach. The voices ringing out from around them start to boo her. Becky chants are mixed in, and Becky drags herself along the ground to grab onto Charlotte's ankle and trip her as she begins moving toward Liv instead. Liv watches them and laughs. "Becky, this is actually a triple threat. She's here for your belts, and she's coming to defeat me to win them because she can't beat you. Didn't you notice how the bell rang right before she showed up?" Becky groans and pulls Charlotte toward her to give her a punch in the side. "Sounds about right. Would explain why you're here out of the blue." "She's lying, you asshole!" Charlotte tries to kick her off. "Ask the referee." Becky looks back over her shoulder and the transparent man shrugs. "What the fuck?" Charlotte yells at him and grapples with Becky, who has climbed on top of her to begin wailing on her face. She uses her arms to try to block the attacks while Liv continues laughing in the background and the voices are chanting endlessly for Becky again. She uses her arms to try to block the attacks while Liv continues laughing in the background and the voices are chanting for Becky. "Why can't you just leave me alone? I've beaten your ass all across Pinfall. Just accept that I'm better than you, would ya?" Becky taunts and continues throwing punches. "Did you really think I'd fall for you being here to genuinely help me? Taking a crossbow bolt in the arm was a nice touch, though." "God damn it, Becky! You stubborn idiot!" Charlotte screams at her and then says, "I can't believe I'm doing this." She groans and throws a weak knee up into Becky's ribs. There's a poofing noise and Becky falls down on top of mostly air and also a raven. The bird is flapping wildly on the ground under her instead of Charlotte. Becky latches onto one of her wings and yanks out a few feathers, causing more violent flailing until Charlotte's claws get purchased in the dirt. She bats Becky a few times in the face with her other wing before getting upright and then flying quickly away as the universe cheers for her departure from the match she wasn't even part of. Whoa! Charlotte Flair just up and abandoned a fight for not one but 2 belts of power. That's wild. It's like a WrestleMania is upon us. I guess it's 1-on-1 now. Liv shrugs and begins walking toward Becky. Or maybe it was just us the entire time. It was so easy to make you turn on Charlotte. With another groan, Becky rolls over and looks toward her. She smirks. "Don't give yourself too much credit, Liv. You can't really turn on someone you don't trust at all." "Liv?" she questions, sounding confused and standing directly above her. She's wearing dark makeup around her eyes, and the rest has a subtle clown look, or maybe a corpse, or a clown corpse. The tunic of her habit is in tatters, ripped short, but not too short. The wimple is dirty and also a bit bloody. Her veil is lying on the ground by the tree and her coif pushed back onto her shoulders. She aims the crossbow between Becky's eyes and pulls the trigger. Becky rolls quickly to the side and gives her a firm kick in the knee. The bolt embeds itself deep in the soil and Becky stands up, driving her shoulder into Liv's midsection. She fluidly knocks the crossbow from her hand before wrapping her fingers around her neck. Liv gasps, and Becky realizes quickly that she's trying to laugh while being strangled. She's also not fighting her at all and seems to be enjoying the encounter. Becky isn't aiming to actually kill her, nor turn her on, or whatever is happening. Startled by this, she lets her go and takes a step back. "That was dumb," Liv says to her. Her voice is scratchy sounding, but she's grinning. She lunges and locks her arms around Becky's waist, then hoists her up and over her back for a belly-to-belly suplex. Becky crumbles on the ground, and Liv gets back to her feet quickly. She wraps her arms around her again and flings her over in a belly-to-back, again leaving Becky in a crumpled, groaning heap. Becky manages to roll over and begins to scramble on her hands and knees toward the crossbow. It doesn't have a bolt in it, but at the very least she can hit her with it. Her fingers grasp one of the limbs. She winces and tries to pull it toward her, but she can't because Liv has one foot on the bridge. Liv kicks the weapon away from both of them and then stomps on Becky's hand. She digs her heel in, grinding her fingers into the dirt. "You're not getting my belts." Becky clenches her jaw and grabs onto Liv's other leg with her free arm. The voices are chanting, rallying her. The farmer and his family emerge from their home to investigate the hullabaloo and are watching from the porch. They too begin cheering her on. "I don't want your belts," she tells her. "I want to destroy you." The belts are a secondary concern. She claws into Liv's skin, but Liv is unaffected and just laughs more. Becky begins yanking at her other hand, trying to free it from under the sole of her shoe. Her flesh tears and she thinks she hears bones cracking, but she doesn't feel anything. All she feels is anger and a very strong desire to put on a good show for the farmer and his family, as well as the mysterious voices of the universe. She has to win, no matter what. They want her to win, and she can't let them down. With a sudden surge of strength and determination, Becky gets her hand free, but it takes ripping the skin from her last 3 fingers. She's also pretty sure at least 2 are broken. She immediately latches onto Liv's legs with both of her arms and rips them out from under her. She falls, and Becky is on top of her immediately, throwing punches with both of her fists into her face like she did Charlotte. Only Liv isn't attempting to block her strikes at all. She also can't quite make a fist with her left hand anymore, so those hits are more like weird slaps. Liv is laughing as Becky breaks her nose and probably one of her eye sockets, and then her lip. Her bleeding hand also flinging her own blood all over the scene. "Quit laughing, you fucking psycho!" Becky screams at her and grabs 2 handfuls of her blonde hair, and she begins slamming the back of her head into the ground. Liv abruptly stops laughing, not because Becky has killed her or even knocked her out. She's taking a hell of a beating, and it doesn't seem to actually be wearing her down at all. She just stops laughing and she begins staring past Becky. She looks like she's listening very intently to something. She then nods her head amid the bashing. Disturbed again, Becky stops. She keeps her pinned this time, her knees on either side of her, and her hands pressing her shoulders to the ground. The referee is approaching with Becky's belts and ushering her off of Liv. She sits up but doesn't let Liv go. Liv lays on the ground, her nose and mouth bleeding, and several lacerations also streaking her face. She has blood in her hair, and her arms are splayed out. With no warning whatsoever, she leans in and licks Becky's cheek with her full tongue, from her jawline all the way up next to her eye. Becky is startled by this, and Liv takes the opportunity to scuttle out from under her. "What the fuck is going on?" Becky asks no one in particular, and she tries to wipe the saliva from her face, but only smears blood and dirt around. She sits on the ground and takes her belts from the referee. She remains sitting and holds them in her lap with her broken hand hanging limply next to her. The farmer's family is cheering from the porch, and the universe is roaring. Liv continues crab walking away and staring at her the entire time. She calls back after a few moments. "You were the chosen one. He says it isn't time for you to fall yet, so I guess I'll see you at the WrestleMania." "What?" asks Becky, even more dumbfounded. She's had the most bizarre day. Liv then appears to melt into the ground and is gone. She watches the referee fade. The farmer and his family bring her ice and bandages. She waves them away as politely as she can and gets to her feet. Blood drips from her mutilated fingers, but she ignores it. She carefully tucks both of the belts into her pack, hearing Liv's last foreboding words echo over and over in her mind. She manages to high-five the children with her good hand, and then she picks up the crossbow and the bolt Liv shot into the ground, and she moves along. She can't help but think that the thing she fought was not actually Liv Morgan. It just looked like Liv Morgan. And what was that bullshit about the WrestleMania and being the chosen one? "Mind games," she mumbles as she hobbles up the road, seeming to remember that she has a large puncture wound in her thigh as well. Just a bunch of mind games. But that wasn't any version of Liv Morgan she'd ever met before. Something was also very wrong with the Iconics. That was true. When out of earshot of any people, making sure there's no one else on the road with her, she shouts, "Charlotte, where are ya?" "I'm sure you're around here somewhere because I can't seem to get ya out of my ass, no matter how hard I try." She sighs. "And now, I suppose you're actually not around the one time I want ya. Of course, because I ran ya off when you maybe weren't actually after the belts." There is no response, and she scans the sky for any sign of the huge, ominous bird. She sees some smaller birds, regular little blackbirds. She's covered in dirt and blood, and she limps northward in the direction that Charlotte the Raven flew. Tune in next week for Chapter 7, Blisscross Journey to the Forgotten Lands of Nitro, Part 1. And, holy shit, Irish accents are really hard, especially after all I've been doing is Nikki's Scottish accent, and then for a hot second, last chapter, I did Pete. But damn, I just probably... my god, no spoilers, but if there's ever a chapter in which Becky and Nikki are talking, I will probably just die. Anyway, maybe it was funny. I hope it was funny. I tried hard. I did my very best. Oh my god. Sorry again. Also, as you probably realized, I changed Liv Morgan's character completely, more or less, maybe. I needed someone to be Sister Abigail. Obviously, she's Sister Abigail. Liv was the winner. It was, there was really no one else I even considered. I went straight for Liv Morgan. I thought they were going to go in that direction after she did all of those bathtub promos. I thought she was going to get out of the bathtub and be Sister Abigail. I mean, I guess that wasn't logical, but it would have been cool. I hope no one minds my take on Sister Abigail. I know I've mentioned it briefly before. I really like Liv, and I think it's cool to make her completely evil. So... yeah, if you do mind, I really don't care because it's already written. I'm not redoing it if you get your little panties in a bunch. Anyway, thank you for listening, as always. Thanks. See ya.